I call this meeting of the South Redford Board of Education together at 6:30. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the roll call. Madam Secretary, you can call the roll, please.
Daniel Winston.
Present.
Anthony Johnson.
Present.
Lori Hicks is absent. Misha Early.
Present.
Cheryl Flesher.
Present.
Amanda Flesher present. Shirley Tolliver.
Present. Next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda? Madam President? Yes. I would like to take 19 off the table tonight. Thank you. I'm looking for more. Evaluation tool, right?
I'll support Misha.
Okay. All right.
Motion by Misha, supported by Cheryl Flesher.
Yes. I also would like to table item 16 pending our next board meeting of June 22nd. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent Communications, Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one of my favorite evenings of the year where we'll have an opportunity tonight to recognize our retirees. So thank you to the staff that are here tonight, as well as to the families and friends that are here in support of recognizing our retirees, which will happen here shortly. Additionally, I have a number of recognitions to share this evening. First is thank you to the Thurston High School administrative staff and the entire Thurston High School staff for organizing and coordinating a very successful graduation ceremony that occurred on June 5th at USA Hockey, where we had a sold-out crowd of approximately 3,300 seats, where we recognized the accomplishments of our graduates of both Thurston High School as well as the SOAR Academic Institute. And gladly, it is my pleasure to share that 100% of our students graduated this year. So hats off to the entire Thurston High School staff, because without them, none of that would be possible. Additionally, I would like to recognize our very own career technical education teacher this evening, Mr. Chef Tony, as well as teaching assistant Leo. They found out on Friday that we have been recognized and approached to having an articulation agreement with Schoolcraft College for hospitality and tourism. And so our students from the hospitality tourism program right here at the Innovation Center attached to this building will have the opportunity, if they meet certain criteria, to go right into the notable program at Schoolcraft College for hospitality and tourism. So hats off to Chef Tony as well as to Chef Leo for making that become a reality for our students here as well. Another career technical education recognition this evening is to our very own Jennifer Bruner, as well as teaching assistant Sarah Nymick, who, thanks to their teaching and the environment that they foster for our students, 21 students from Thurston High School received their certified nursing assistant certification last month. So 21 students that were in that program are now certified nursing assistants thanks to their efforts as well. I would also like to recognize Mr. Reeves, as well as Coach Davis, as well as our entire football coaching staff, who orchestrated a football camp yesterday with Thurston High School alumni Eric Wilson, who also happens to play for the Green Bay Packers. So he's a Thurston High School alumni, and he was kind enough to give back to the community in which he came from and organize a football camp yesterday in the stadium for approximately 150 students. So that would not have been possible without Eric Wilson, Thurston High School alumni, as well as current Green Bay Packer, and Mr. Reeves for his efforts as well. off to activity sponsor Ms. Jessica Jascott from Pierce Middle School, who organized 4 student esports teams over at Pierce Middle School. And thanks to her efforts in conjunction with our middle schoolers over at Pierce, we had 4 teams compete in the state championship for esports at Michigan State University a few weeks ago. So hats off to them as well. And lastly, I would like to recognize 2 student athletes from Thurston High School, Mr. Luke Plant, who qualified for the boys' state championships for golf, as well as to our own Latrice Williams of Thurston High School, who qualified for states for girls track and field. So hats off to having 2 state qualifiers this year as well. And with that, Madam President, that concludes my communications this evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bob. Next item on the agenda is board communications. Do I have any board communications? I have. This is from our own congressional records. Miss Representative Rashida Tlaib. And it reads, I'm going to stand up.
Please do.
House of Representatives, Honorable Rashida Tlaib of Michigan in the House of Representatives, May 29, 2024. In honor of South Redford School District's Innovation Center, today I want to recognize the South Redford School District as they celebrate the grand opening of their Innovation Center. The Innovation Center proudly offers new programming for building trades, culinary paths, welding, health professions, and hospitality. This new programming will open innumerable doors to so many students within the district, ensuring that they find what fits their passions. The center is also equipped to ensure that its students have the needed career preparatory skills to succeed after graduation. These skills include the creation of an educational development plan, apprenticeship programs, and paid or non-paid internships. In addition, the center works to provide its students into any path they choose to embark on. This means that they put an important focus on aiding their employability or assisting them with negating post-secondary intuitions. Please join me and the 12th Congressional District in celebrating the opening of Redford Schools District's Innovation Center and the subsequent launch of their newest program. I thought that was fantastic. Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience, topics related to the agenda.
Nope.
There are none. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam President,
Yes.
if I may, at this time, can we turn it over to Assistant Superintendent
Okay,
Mr.
that would be
Kinsey
fine. Okay.
to recognize the retirees that are in the room this evening?
Okay. Mr. Kinsey.
Thank you, Madam President, Superintendent Barbara-Betsky. So, we're honored this evening to recognize 14 retirees, and I'm going to call each one of them by name. So if you would, you can either stand or just wave your hand for recognition. I'm going to call their names, the years, and the school where they are, and the last position that they served in. So first, we have Robert Snell, 34 years, Thurston High School, PE. Mr. Snell, are you here tonight? All right. Next, we have George Williams, 12 years, Thurston High School, mathematics. Next, we have Susan Still, 23 years with the district, over at Fisher. She's in 2nd grade.
Next, we have Ms. Valerie Munoz, 25 years with the district, Thurston High School, credit recovery and biology. Then we have Mr. Eric Nelson, 27 years, Thurston High School, biology. Next, we have Jennifer Jerish, 21 years, Thurston High School, Spanish. Then Mr. Ricardo Gonzalez, 30 years with the district, here and SOAR, math and mentor. Next we have Mr. Christopher Buhner, 25 years, Pierce Middle School and social studies. Following we have Ms. Tracy Drodis, 26 years with the district, Thurston High School and special education. Following we have Ms. Gail Pendergrass, 32 years with the district, Pierce Middle School and social studies. Following we have Ms. Julie Marsh, 31 years with the district, Adams Elementary, 3rd grade. And then we have Ms. Linda Muse, 35 years with the district, elementary music. Then we have Ms. Heather Medidal Barlow, 30 years with the district, Pierce Middle School, counselor. Finally, we have Ms. Christine Dubois, she goes by Chris Dubois, 37 years with the district over at Adams as a. So we celebrate these times. It's like a bittersweet. So these dedicated individuals who've dedicated their lives to children, and we celebrate it. But it's like a bittersweet though, because it's like all these good people, and it's like saying, okay, bye. You know, it's like it's difficult. But this is not an easy profession. I'm sure generation after generation, people say, hey, look, it's getting tougher and tougher out here. I'm pretty sure they said that 30 years ago. I'm sure they said that in 50 years. But these individuals have stuck with it all of this time, serving our community and serving our children. And that's not an easy feat. So we really appreciate you guys sticking around and doing that. You know, your passion, your resilience, your dedication is extraordinary. So as we gather to recognize the contributions, just remember that this impact that you've had on kids, you planted seeds in lives. And that you may not see it, you may not ever get to see it, however, but it goes on and impacts generation after generation after generation. So thank you guys, we really appreciate all that you've done to serve South Redford and the South Redford community. So now we're gonna move on. We'd like to honor each of you with giving you a bell, and that bell stands for a symbol of your timeliness dedication. In addition, we're also going to have some heartfelt words from our SREA president, followed by our SAROPA co-president, and then each retiree's respective administrator. So first, I'm going to start with Mr. Snell. He's not here, right? Right. All right, so we're going to go with Mr. George Williams. Is George here?
Yeah.
No? He's over there. Oh, there you are, George. All right.
Come on this one.
Thank you, George.
Yay.
Okay, we can do that, yeah. So I saw Valerie. Valerie's here. Ms. Munoz, here you are. Rick, I saw you in the back there. Thank you, Rick. Mr. Buhner, thank you, sir. Tracy, I saw you. Mr. Tracy. Ms. Pendergrass, there you go. March. Thank you. Ms. Hughes, where did I see you? There you go. Ms. Barlow. There you go. And Ms. Dubois, where did I see you? There you go.
So thank you to everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Bill Dyer. As Mr. Kinsey mentioned, I'm the SREA president. So part of my duty, one of the best parts of my job is to be here tonight to express, on behalf of our membership, our heartfelt thanks and the love that all you guys have put into our job for so many years. And frankly, I realized like two things tonight. One is, you guys have been here a really long time. And clearly I think some of you are better at saving money than I am. Because I'm going to keep working, and I know some of these people I hired in on the same day with. So I clearly need to be doing something a little bit different. But no, I appreciate you in so many ways. And if you didn't happen to notice, there's a really big former Pierce contingent here tonight. And that's because we're having a big old party later. So, full disclosure. But tonight, honestly, again, on behalf of our SRE board, I just want to thank all the people that are here tonight. So normally we have some gifts that we generally hand out to our members too, but we did that earlier today, knowing that we have so many of us that are retiring this year. For this year, for the first time, we had 13 people retiring, and that's as many people as I can ever remember retired in 1 year from South Redford Schools as far as the 30 years that I've been here. Would that be fair to say? Probably, yeah. So thank you to all, and the support of the board. And I also do want to reiterate before I forget that per Mr. Bob Vessey's comment earlier, that graduation we had at Thurston was fantastic. And I appreciate you guys making that happen because it was just a terrific scene to see everybody in our community all together at one time, as it is to see all of our teachers here at one time too as well. That was just fantastic. But for myself, again, I just hope, you have many adventures and good health that await you so you don't, work in all these classrooms 25 to 30 years and have something terrible befall you. I hope you have a wonderful, long life, just full of adventure with great things that happen. I appreciate your service in so many ways. And I know, like to Mr. Kinsey's comment, you may not see the results of that immediately, but in the long term, one student at a time, I think you can make a complete difference for all those lives that you've changed. Normally we have our entire executive board here, but tonight, I just said that I would just take care of the things myself because we didn't really have anything to pass out. But for many of you here, as you guys know, we worked together in the same halls for a long time. Julie and myself, I think we got hired on the same day with Ricky too as well. So it's just, it hits a little closer to home this year with people being here from 30 plus years. And as I said at the Thurston retirement the other day, my work wife Tracy Drodas is here. My dream team member Val Dudek, who I still call her, Munoz, is still here. Chris Buhner, who I taught across the hall from. Gail Pendergrass, who took care of us and didn't let us run ourselves into the gutter when we were on the team together over at Pierce. Linda, a former colleague of mine at Pierce. So it's just so wonderful. Heather Barlow, who's I've kept on the straight and narrow for all of us. But really, I just want to say I appreciate you guys in so many words, and I truly will miss you because more than just being just colleagues of mine, you're just, as you know, friends of mine more than anything. And it will be a little bit different carrying on without all of you, and certainly not just your experience, but your love of the district and all the things that you've done, from coaching to union work to leadership roles. Will certainly be missed in our district for many years to come. So appreciate all of you, all my colleagues, George too as well. Can't thank you enough for all the work that you guys do. And I really do appreciate you showing up because I think it's really important for you to be here tonight so we get a chance to say thanks to you, for all the work that you guys did. So thanks for allowing us this opportunity to say thanks to my friends, my colleagues, and the people that I love dearly. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Board of Education.
And we've got to move our agenda.
One more.
It's a consent agenda.
Yeah.
I am here to say a few words about Chris Dubois. According to Human Resources records, Chris hired in South Redford in 1987. You get the record for tonight, by the way, as a clerical sub. And then in 1989, April of '89, she became a library aide for Thurston. And in August of 1990, she moved to her real home at the front desk of Jane Addams. Congratulations, Chris, on 37 years with South Redford. I can't do it. I can't imagine calling extension 1359 next year and not hearing you on the other end of that line. You've been the voice of Addams for 34 years. Here's a few comments from some of our SROPA members. This is from Erica Wilson at Vandenberg. Congratulations on 37 years. Wishing you the best in your new chapter. I will miss you. From Reva, I would like to thank Chris for being so welcoming and helpful when I started in September of '23. Thank you. Kat Lewis, Media Tech over there. It was such a joy working with Chris over the few years I've worked at Addams and while having my children attend Addams. She's so knowledgeable and helpful to me in so many ways, not just as a coworker, but as a parent in the district. She's always supportive of all kinds to my children. We've had good times and good laughs together. She'll be leaving a lasting impression on everyone at Addams. She'll be deeply missed. Our next great secretary has big shoes to fill. True. Betsy Lee Pack, Vandenberg, Media Tech. When I worked summer school with Chris, she was always cheerful and extremely helpful. From Rosanna Goodwin. Whenever I was uncertain of something and called Chris for help, she was always very nice. Thank you for your encouraging words when I stepped into the secretary position here at Pierce. It meant more than you know. I wish you the best on your next adventure. We'll definitely miss you. From Morgan. I got my start as a school secretary in elementary school when my parents won the Addams Secretary for a Day at South Redford auction for 2 years in a row. I think I was in 3rd and 4th grades. I got to sit with Chris all day and answer the phone, put mail away, which, by the way, she said to me today, now I think that was actually a really bad job because I think it was always after
After a break.
After a break, and there was a bunch of mail that she just didn't want to do, so. Make copies for teachers, and Chris bought me McDonald's for lunch. It was a blast, and I'll never forget it. Thanks, Chris. Although I'd been a secretary for many years in my pre-mom life, my initiation to school secretary life came through Chris. My girls were at Addams, and I got to know Chris not only as a parent, but through my connection to the PTA, because I basically lived at Addams. She always made me feel welcome. One day Chris asked if I would sub for her, and here I am now. Little by little, she left me more and more things to do when she would be out. She taught me all the basics of elementary school secretary job, and I probably still have my notes from Addams at home somewhere. I like to keep that stuff. Chris was always good to my girls and my family, all the Addams families. I always felt so fortunate to be a part of the school with the Chris team in the office. And I know everyone thinks their kids' elementary was the best, but ours really was. They were such a great, caring team, and I really feel blessed to have gotten my start at Addams with you. When I became part of the SROPA group, I relied on Chris in different ways as a co-worker with someone with years of experience to answer a multitude of questions that I had. I could always count on her. She's been such an important part of our group, and everyone knows they can call her at any time with questions, and she's always there to answer them. She knows how we do things now, how they used to be done, and everything in between. I always loved subbing at Addams because I was comfortable there. It was my home. I knew the teachers, the monitors, some of you here tonight that are retiring from Pierce and still Addams. They were Morgan and Jordan's teachers. So I knew the monitors, the kids, the parents. Back then, Chris kept telling me I'm only going to work for a few more years. So I really thought that I was going to slide right into the Addams job, and then it was a few more years and a few more years. That's a testimony of someone who loves their job, the kids, the teachers, someone who's loving and caring, just isn't ready to say goodbye yet. Addams was lucky to have you for those extra years.
But now it's time to say goodbye. To think about yourself and your family full time. To live the retirement life. I wish you relaxing days, not thinking about filling teacher absences, being short of monitors, supply orders, POs, mickers, as Chris calls it. Which teachers haven't posted their attendance, and kids constantly coming into the office for Band-Aids and ice and everything else in between. Enjoy your retirement, Chris. I'll miss you a ton. Hello. I was very sick this weekend, so excuse my voice and my hat. I'm Portia Flowers. I'm the principal at Adams, and I have 3 people here that I want to just have some very short words, but honest and true from my heart. First is going to be for Chris, and we already had our cry, so I'm not going to cry, I promise. So I just want to say that to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for all the help and support that she provided me. She was very kind, she accepted me, and it just meant a great deal to me. And I just can't thank you enough for being there and providing me guidance and encouragement. It has been a pleasure getting to know you. You're so knowledgeable, funny, wise, and just seeing somebody else when I walk in the morning, this is going to be very strange, but I'm definitely grateful for everything. So yesterday, Friday when I left, I wasn't feeling good. She goes, "What you need?" She opens up her purse and she just has all the money. I said, "Well, who's going to take care of me when you leave?" So, Chris, you're going to be so missed. Thank you so much for everything. Miss Muse, I've known Miss Muse as my kids' music teacher before I was her principal, so we have a dual relationship. So it has just been an absolute pleasure getting to know her in 2 dual roles. I'm just a big fan of the great work you do with the students, the concerts, and I appreciate all that you give the students, just giving them a chance to showcase their musical talents, and just sharing your expertise, passion, and guidance is all going to be deeply missed. Thank you for everything that you've done for the students, the parents, and Adams, and I just wish you all the best. Thank you so much. And Mrs. Marsh, I just want to take a moment again to express my appreciation. She was trying to leave me last year. And I said if she gave me 1 more year, so definitely appreciate the fact that you have stayed 1 more year. She had a tough year this year, but I just truly appreciate you staying and sticking it out and giving it your all. And the students just deserved everything that you gave them this year. You are a phenomenal educator. And it has been an absolute pleasure to witness the tremendous impact you have on your students. What she does with 2nd graders to the end of 3rd grade is amazing. She has knowledge, she's patient and understanding, and she has a special understanding of what each and every student needs. And I am grateful for everything that you've done for Adams before I was there, especially when I was there, and you will be missed. Thank you all.
Hello, I'm Megan Raposi. I'm the principal at Jefferson, and coming after Portia, I would like to say a few things about Mrs. Muse. So Mrs. Muse, your commitment to excellence, your patience, and your ability to inspire have created an environment where students can grow and learn. I loved seeing the students at the end of our semesters together perform, not only showing the hard work that they put in, but all of the hard work that you did, and instilling a love of learning. And as a previous musician, I appreciated that. We had some conversation about that. So as you embark on your new journey, may your days be filled with the same joy and fulfillment you've brought to so many of us. While we'll miss your presence dearly at Jefferson, I know that your legacy will continue on. While it's just been 2 years with us, 35 years in the district is a great amount of time. So I hope that you enjoy your retirement and whatever the next adventure brings to you. So thank you for all you've done for us.
Well, I'm Matt Rudy. I'm the principal at Thurston High School. Tracy and Val and George, you are going to be exceptionally missed. Thurston. Whether it was in the Eagle Support Center or downstairs in the Freshman Academy for a time, or holding down the 600 hall by the courtyard, or the short 600. How many rooms, George? 4. I mean, in 13 years, he had 4 homes. He moved a lot, and he helped me out during that too. They always brought students first every day, whether that meant doing the easy thing or the hard thing, or asking hard questions, or whatever it might have meant in between. You guys are going to be missed in ways that I don't really know how to verbalize, but I wish you nothing but the best. And as Bill said, many adventures, long retirement, and many years to come after this. So thank you for all you've done for Thurston and the legacy that you're leaving behind. We will miss you.
Got one too, because there's educators who are in an educational circle, but there's also ways that students learn in extra ways, and being the athletic director, athletics is a huge component of that. We got some tremendous coaches also retiring, and one that's retiring from the classroom but still is going to be coaching. I want to give kudos to George Williams there. He's going to continue coaching tennis at Thurston, but it goes without saying, Coach Snell isn't here, but he's a historical coach. Coaching for 30 plus years at Thurston, various sports, not only football, but other sports. He is definitely a historical figure and has been a lot to the athletic program that has taken place at Thurston. And I also want to give kudos to the dynamic duo that builds for Coach Snell, that also be retiring, Coach Gonzalez and Coach Buhner as well. Coach Buhner took on, he's part of that state championship in golf with Luke and coaching him up, but the two of them have coached football at Pierce for over 20 years and had some pretty dominant programs that have came through there and set our Eagles up for success. So I want to say thank you to all the coaches retired, all the educators, period, but give an extra shout out to the coaches who go above and beyond to educate our athletes in extraordinary ways. Thank you.
Hello, Elizabeth Duperrin, the assistant principal at Pierce. Everybody here is from Pierce. This is heartbreaking, Bill. So I'm going to speak about the 3 people from Pierce that are retiring. Gail Pendergrass has been a wonderful member of the Pierce family for several years. We were lucky enough to inherit her with Dr. Hofer when several of Dr. Hofer's teachers came over from Adams. She fit right into Pierce. I had to think about when she came because it seems like she's been there forever. With her kindness, love, compassion, and wonderful relationships with students. Hundreds of our 6th graders have benefited from Gail's love, support, and relationships. We were blessed to have Gail, and she will be greatly missed. Chris Buhner. Chris has been a pivotal piece of the Pierce puzzle for over 25 years. Chris has been a coach, a mentor, a friend, a cheerleader for the entire Pierce and South Redford community. I had the opportunity to work closely with Chris when I taught 8th grade, and Chris quickly became a mentor when telling me that I needed to teach 8th graders differently than I taught 6th graders. Thank God for that, because he helped me to better understand 8th graders and made my 3 years as an 8th grade teacher the best they could have been. Thanks, Chris. Chris is a quiet supporter of everyone.
I'm not done. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Wait till I get to you.
Hurry up.
Chris. I'm going to miss you, Heather. Chris is a quiet supporter of everyone and is always there for the Pierce family whenever anyone needs anything. Chris looks like a tough football coach, but the truth is he's a kind, sweet teddy bear of a person who's loved by all who have ever worked with him. Congrats on your retirement, Chris. You will be missed. So Heather, I wrote something for Heather to read at the retirement dinner lunch, and I couldn't do it. So I'm going to try to get through it. Heather is my work wife, and her office is like 5 feet out my door, so we yell at each other through the door all day. So I don't know what I'm going to do without Heather next year. Heather's been the heart and soul of our school for over 20 years. She's worked with countless students and staff, including my kids, and touched our lives in so many meaningful ways. She's more than a counselor, she's a friend and mentor and a role model for everyone she interacts with. Her ability to build real, genuine relationships with everyone she meets is amazing. Whether it's offering a comforting word to a student, giving advice to a colleague, or just sharing her infectious smile, Heather brings warmth and kindness to everything she does. Heather's always been a fierce advocate for our students and our teachers. She's always there to stand up for what's right and make sure every voice is heard. Her dedication to our school and district is unmatched, and she's our biggest cheerleader, always pushing us to be our best. We all know and love her sense of humor, inappropriate at times, and her ability to make us laugh, even on the toughest of days. Her loving personality and hard work are legendary, and her smile brightens our halls every day. Heather's not just a professional, she's a true friend to so many of us. She's always there to offer support, share a laugh, or lend a helping hand. Her presence has made our school a better place, and her impact is something we will cherish forever. So we celebrate Heather. Thank her for her dedication, her spirit, and her unwavering support. You've been our light, laughter, and our rock. Your legacy of kindness, humor, and hard work will continue to inspire us for years. Thank you.
Are there any other administrators who have some words to honor our retirees?
Okay. My person isn't here, but these are my people. I went to the dark side and became an administrator, but you know how much I love all of you. And you are truly going to be missed. You're amazing educators, and good luck with your retirement. I'll be right around the corner.
I didn't have a prepared speech, so I apologize, but Tracy, you've been a leader, even if you weren't in that department head role, you really have been a leader in the department for a long, long time, and you're going to be missed. I really have appreciated you. We've had our own moments just after COVID. It's been tough to really just educate those in general, but especially some of our neediest students, but you did a wonderful job, and I will miss you. And Heather, you know, I know that we've been really involved in so many of the mental health supports and initiatives, of the behavior committee work, the trauma work. You are going to be missed, and you know, I just think you have given so much, and we've worked on a lot of it together, but I'm going to be missing that open office too. I think not as much as some who have known you longer, but I really appreciate working with you. So, and I know a lot of the other teachers because I get around as the director somehow, but I really have appreciated all of our educators, and many will be missed. So welcome to retirement. I'm excited for you all.
Again, on behalf of South Redford School District, thank you. I really appreciate your service, so thank you. Appreciate all your years of dedicated service to our community. Now we shift our focus to another group of teachers. As I mentioned earlier, and a lot of folks mentioned, this is not an easy profession. A lot of folks who come into it, they don't last. They oftentimes will find something else to do, or they'll shop around and says, oh no, this district's not for me, this district's not for me, this district's not for me. Sometimes it's just that teaching is not it. But what we have here now is we have some teachers who we want to recognize right now, are teachers who have achieved tenure. So in order to achieve tenure, you have to be here in South Redford for at least 5 years, or you've achieved tenure somewhere else and then you came over here to South Redford, and then you achieved tenure after 2 years. So we like to recognize these teachers for their dedication, their resilience, their passion, and just this thing we call stick-to-itness. So thank you for that. If you're here tonight, we'd like to honor you as well. So either you can stand when I call your name or just wave your hand. But we have Miss Rachel Bowman over at Thurston. We have Miss Brianna Shambo, she's at Pierce. We have Laura Balla at Thurston. We have Paul Garrett at Adams. Jessica Jascott at Pierce. Miss Hannah Roby at Thurston. Mr. Aaron Rosebrock at Thurston. Mr. Anthony Paquette, Thurston and CTE. And finally, Mr. Richard Hinger, who teaches special education over at Adams. So in honor of those teachers, we'd like to congratulate them for reaching this milestone in their career of achieving tenure. So thank you, guys.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we would like to thank you very much for your dedication, your commitment, and especially thank you for teaching our students. Do I have a board member that's willing to adopt the resolution? Mrs.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been adopted by Mrs. Fletcher and supported by Mrs. Brody. All in favor? Aye. Thank you so much. Now, we're gonna take about a 15-minute break. We have refreshments for you guys. Thank you. I call this meeting of South Redford Board of Education back at 7:32. Next item on the agenda is presentation of the behavior committee. Mr.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to turn it over to our facilitators of the Behavior Committee this year, which is Lisa Horvitich, Rachel Wicker, and Holly Palmieri. Thank you.
There's a lot less people here. A little less intimidating. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to give you an update of our behavior committee. We know that we do not do this work in isolation, and it takes many people to provide that safe and nurturing environment for our children. So beginning with that, let's go to, the next slide.
Do you want to do introductions?
Oh, of course, we'll do introductions. I'm Holly Palmieri. I'm one of the district behavior coaches. And
I'm Rachel Wicker. I'm the other district behavior coach.
Lisa Horvitich, the Director of Student Services, and I could not do my job without either of these ladies, or at least not as well.
so moving on to the next slide is the kind of what one of our core beliefs. Oh, I guess I am in charge of this. Let me just.
Switch.
No, it's not.
May have timed out. Give me a
Okay.
second.
There we go.
Try and switch it now just to make sure.
It's not working.
No?
Oh.
All right, I'm going to stand here. You just
Okay,
tell me when.
will do. So we always come back to this graphic when we do our teamwork, because we know it's important to look beyond just rewards and consequences when it comes to dealing with student behavior, or any behavior for that matter. So in thinking about that, we are very mindful in our work about taking care of the root. And part of that is to deal with 5 behavior roots. And so we deal with the unmet needs of the students, we deal with the lagging skills, we talk about unsolved problems, limiting beliefs, and systemic barriers. So bringing that to South Redford, we look at the unmet needs as being creating those safe spaces, both physically and emotionally, for our students and our staff. Thinking about lagging skills, what can we do for social emotional learning instruction, behavior planning, and social skills instruction? And this is really focusing on progress, that these are lifelong skills. When we come to social emotional learning, it's birth to death. We always evolve as humans with our social emotional learning skills. Thinking about unsolved problems. This is where we might get into the restorative work we've done over the years. Our social work and counselor support. I know I personally cannot speak highly about our social workers and our counselors in South Redford and the work that they do to support our students and our staff. Thinking about limited beliefs. We build on our strengths. We help each other goal set, and we provide hope for the future for our students. And then taking off systemic barriers. This is where our equity work comes into play, and our inclusive settings, our ableism work for helping our students with disabilities be participants within our schools. So our driving questions are always to our beliefs and mindset. What are our beliefs in supporting kids? What training do we need? And what systems of support do we have? And what systems of support do we need? We come to every meeting, we come back to these questions as our mindset. So thinking about the goals for the committee, always creating a clear and consistent support and systems, whole child, pre-K through 12, regularly refining those systems using data to support our decision making, and providing voice to the level that you are representing. This committee is comprised of members, teachers, parapros, administrators, social workers, counselors. We really want to hear everybody's voices, if not at that meeting, through survey results and just conversations with our colleagues. Thinking about providing voice, where we'd like to take it to is to parents for next year. That's definitely an area where we'd like to grow more with the committee, is inviting the parents at this work, so that we truly are representing everybody that works in South Redford or is part of South Redford. Always the goal with creating a safe and nurturing environment is our overarching. So we're going to talk about elementary, middle school, and high school needs, supports, and next steps. We're also going to highlight the wraparound process, which is recognized at the county level for being really well done, and we're going to talk about goals for next year. So for elementary team, we really went forward with the reset space this year. That is a space where students can come and reflect and reset their behavior with using tools such as surveys. They can use, we have really cool things like a can crusher where they can smash a can to get out their emotions, or they can ride a bicycle for a while to make themselves feel a little bit better. But we have created a lot of supports for students, both mentoring and physical sensory needs in that space. So reset room monitors were trained in each building and increased use of the room to prevent and support. To go forward for next year, the reset monitors continuing to provide those supports in that role and really moving towards the preventative mentoring pieces for those staff members. Another area of need is the consistent training materials for procedures and paraprofessionals. We hire a lot of paraprofessionals in South Redford, so making sure that they have the training, the skills, the supports that they need, so they can either be a one-on-one para or a classroom para or instructional para, so just so they are well versed in what they need for training. And so we've done individual para coacha training. Rachel's working on creating a binder to support parapros when they come in, so they have all the materials that they need right away. And then we're looking at digital processes to make it even a quicker process for next year. So we also continue to build teams to support behavior at all the tiers. We do that by having school-wide celebrations. It was so good to get back to those school-wide celebrations, the Friday town halls and the Friday celebrations at Fisher and the dance parties at Jefferson and the citizen awards and that at Adams. Every school has really moved forward with the school-wide celebrations. And adding the social work support, and then, like I said before, the Tier 3 wraparound process has taken off this year immensely. So we're going to continue to focus on those celebrations. We're going to look at Tier 2 supports training for the reset room monitors and some selected staff, and then continue to build that Tier 3 wraparound. Also, at the more significant level is looking at crisis planning and supports. You know, what do we do for students who may be highly unsafe or need more access to mental health supports? So we're always looking at those through our emergency intervention plans, our crisis prevention training. We looked at risk assessment and crisis procedures this year and really tightening those up so that everybody knows what to do to help students in crisis. And then to continually refine those plans and supports for safe schools and mental health supports. Looking at some data for elementary, everybody takes the PBIS survey. We are a PBS district, so we are K-8, so we take a survey in May, and 91% of the staff surveyed showed favorability of the program. Some highlights were that it contributes to a positive school culture, that we have processes implemented and provided within the tiers, administrative support of the program, especially when it comes to alternative suspension. We have regular school-wide celebrations, and then we connect to other initiatives such as the social emotional learning, the equity work, trauma-informed practices, so teachers see the connectivity of those initiatives and not just one more thing. Areas to work on for continuous improvement, all staff buy-in and consistency, more opportunities for professional learning on PBS topics and interventions, check in, check out, mentoring, and responding to problem behavior, making sure that we're giving teachers and staff members the skills to work with students with problem behavior. Thinking about continued conversations regarding alternative suspension, equity, restorative conversations, trauma-informed, all those things that really came through with the pandemic, and we're keeping that at the forefront for our decision-making, tightening up Tier 2 processes, and then adding the engagement of parents within our PBS programming. Looking at just a sampling of data, this is from the Office Disciplinary Reports, and this really speaks to the increased safety. When this committee was created, I think 3 years ago, we were dealing with a lot of unsafe behavior in our schools, physical behavior, fighting. And so at the elementary level, we had last year 120 episodes of physical aggression, and this year only 86. Repeated minor violations have gone up. That is the little things that students do over time, just repeated behaviors. That tends to be increasing. And then we have days suspended out of school, 106 and 118. So these are let me clarify this. If I have a student who gets a 5-day suspension, that's 5 days. So that's why there's so many days, even it's not. So it's, we are looking at an increase in days suspended out of school, which is something we need to keep an eye on because students do need to be in school where the learning happens. I think that's it for elementary. Yep, so I'm going to talk about middle school.
I don't have to turn my neck at a really weird angle to try to talk to you guys while also seeing the board. So before I get into that though, I did want to say, the work that both Holly and Rachel do supporting all, in addition to having all the extra social work staff, we've gone from the time that I started from like about less than 20 parapros across the district to having almost 60. And that sounds like it's just good news, but it's also a lot of management and support and coaching that really takes a lot of work on my end, on the case provider's end, and as well as these two ladies here who do help with that. So I just want to really acknowledge that. And we're probably seeing that more at the elementary level, as we've seen a lot of kids coming in to kindergarten really unregulated and just needing a lot of support. So I just want to give them a kudos, but also just kind of let you know how that sort of expanded the need. We do a lot of work also to try to get students that have disabilities that have that for a disability that's moderate to severe need to get reimbursement from the county, which takes a lot of paperwork and a lot of follow through and cost reports and all kinds of fun activities. So there's a lot behind the scenes that you might not see while we're trying to get the support that our staff need that also really, it involves a lot of training and follow up. So I just kind of want to acknowledge that and let you know we're working really hard on those parts too. We do have an area looking at for middle school, and the area of need is the MTSS process. I wish Aliza was here because she's been such a part of that. I attend a fair amount of the middle school staff meetings, and I saw her multiple times roll out, the MTSS process and get engagement from the general ed staff as part of that. Really, even though MTSS, which stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Supports, is a general ed initiative, it really involves, pre-referral activities for students that are really struggling either academically or behaviorally, some of which might end up being referred. So it's a gen ed MTSS rollout, it's rebuilding, it goes along with supporting our PBIS matrix and rebuilding the PBIS piece. So when we have a behavior committee, we're looking at both of those things. The students' needs academically and behaviorally, because sometimes you can't separate the two. So we're also looking at, I think we use some of our PBIS funds to get the new matrix signs and reboot that implementation at the middle school, which was fabulous. Now it's more visible. It's something our teachers can point to and say, this is what we need to follow. This is our behavior system, or our PBIS matrix. One of the things I really loved is the house system, and I'm going to forget all of the names because they're kind of like almost like Harry Potter. So I don't know if you've gone to the middle school, but they have the different flags, and I don't even think I'm part of a house, but a lot of my staff are, and a lot of our students that are in our classes are part of a house system. So it's a big building-wide school celebration to get a lot of engagement and feeling of belongingness to the building. So we do have it led by, I think it's Shantaz, and I can't remember who.
Kelly Hill.
Kelly Hill, yes. So that house system is led by teachers to increase positive character traits, working towards a common goal, celebrating school-wide positive behavior, and they really get that positive celebration if their house is like leading with those positive things. So that's been a great way to bring in support and build morale in the building. We also are continuing to build our tiered support, so the Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention coaching and support, checking in, check out, wraparound process. So we've pulled in, I think you've been pulled in for Tier 1 and Tier 2. Rachel tends to get pulled in when we're looking at that Tier 3 level of intervention that's needed. So we really utilize those systems and then are trying to implement that process at the middle school as well. So it's really doing some of that training on check-in, check-out systems for support. And I know you both have met with like some of our teams at the middle school to do that. And then the crisis planning and supports, again, that's similar to what we said about the elementary. It's for reviewing how we're utilizing emergency intervention plans, CPI training, risk assessments, and crisis procedures, and then continued refinement of the crisis planning and supports. Kyla, I think, left, but she was working alongside Cooper to, help look at the, I believe it's the BTAM, the, one of the county level trainings that's available to look at crisis in a crisis intervention if it were needed. And that kind of supports also like our work that we're doing on suicide prevention, and they kind of go hand in hand. We recently just had a pediatric psychiatrist that presented to Wayne Risa for the director group, also presented to all of our social workers and counselors, and did a lot to address how crisis planning support might happen, and looked at different scenarios and how we might respond so that we can kind of increase our learning about when and how to address a potential crisis. So that's been great. And then looking at our data, our strength areas are the regular meetings that we are having to communicate the process to staff and to get staff feedback. The administrative support with attending meetings, giving teachers feedback on the PBIS program, and then also the PBIS assemblies and point systems that have been having a major impact on the school culture. So again, similar to the elementary school, some of the opportunities for improvement are all staff buy-in and consistency, more opportunities for professional learning on PBIS, topic and interventions. I have to say, I think that Arietta used to be a big proponent of the PBIS committee. So her retiring and not being one of the leads is just a difference, but it is, one of those things that, we're definitely still shoring up. And want to look at check-in, check-out, mentoring, a response to problem behavior, etc. And then also looking at alternative to suspension, continuing the systems work with intervention at the tiers through MTSS, and a huge component is that engagement with parents. So, all right, Rachel, do you want to swap with me, or you feel okay going from there? Okay. Oh, darn, there's the data. I forgot about that part. Sorry. So episodes of disruption have gone down from the 22-23 school year from 515 episodes to 344, and episodes of physical aggression have also gone down, as well as fighting, and that looks like a weird number. Yeah. I'm like confused, but no. So there is a little bit more in the way of suspensions, but again, I think we had some high flyers, that might have had more than a few. So that one might also reflect what you were mentioning about one student having multiple days. So, and I think that's the end of that part. And now you're up.
Oh, there's a slide that's missing from the high school. It was a last minute.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go ahead and just refer to it.
I forgot I didn't go over the high school.
I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. Thurston High School is currently looking into schedule changes and working to find an appropriate social emotional learning components to meet the needs of students and fit within their schedule. And their episodes of disruption have gone up from 59 to 86, but their episodes of physical aggression have gone down from 13 to 8. Episodes of fighting have gone down from 44 to 28, and their days suspended have gone from 1,052 to 1,019, so a downward trend in out-of-school suspension in the high school. Apologize it didn't get to the new on time, if we can get that to you.
You were switching that?
Yep. So I'm going to speak to a process called wraparound. I know you've heard it mentioned a couple of times. I
work with, most frequently I work with students who are receiving Tier 3 level supports, and I know we've been using the terminology Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. So I wish I would have included a visual up here of the pyramid, but when we're thinking Tier 3 level supports, we're thinking anywhere from 5 to 15% of our students who are needing the most intensive behavioral supports. So if we are engaging this process, we're looking at even the tippy top of that. And this has been one of our goals as a district, was to get a systemic process in place for our students with the most needs. So these are cases where we have students who might have behaviors that are highly dangerous to themselves or others, that are highly disruptive to the classroom environment, that put them at risk for being removed from the classroom environment at high frequencies, things like that. So just to give you a definition of what this is, it is part of our PBIS system, but it's looking again at that 1 to 2% of students whose needs have become so complex that going through our typical process, which is a functional behavior assessment, that's one of our standard processes for determining why a behavior is happening, and the behavior intervention plan, that process is not enough for them. Then we're moving into this process. Go to the next slide. Thank you. So what is it? It's an intensive ongoing process, and we look at that functional behavior assessment to develop our plan, but then we expand that process to meeting regularly in a very systemic way and using the data to inform all of our next steps. So it also is unique in that the name wraparound, as it implies, we're wrapping all of the student supports around them. So that a crucial part of that is the family. It's not wraparound if it's not highly engaging with the family. So family comes in, any community service providers come in. We've worked with social workers, we've worked with doctors, psychiatrists, at times the juvenile system. It could really be any outside service provider. So we meet every 4 to 6 weeks depending on the level of need. And we, again, as I said, everything's based on the data. So we open it up by looking at specifically what the behavior has been looking like in the school setting, just from a data perspective, and we all make decisions together about what interventions might need to be adjusted. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is just some data. Since it's only that 1 to 2 tippy top %, the numbers are a lot smaller because it's a much more intensive process. So we had 12 students who were engaged in wraparound students this past school year. Of those 12 students, 6 students are moving to less intensive supports, which is great, and 6 students will be maintaining that level of support. So opportunities for improvement, we're looking at continuing to systemize this process and building team independence in each building. The other strength I just wanted to note is that our process has been highlighted at the county level from our county behavioral consultants at a number of presentations and trainings that they have done. So it's really nice that they've been able to recognize our success with some of these cases of students who have the most intense behavioral needs. So that's awesome. And that is that for that slide. So next steps, I'm moving away from talking about the wraparound process. Next steps just in general for the committee. We will be continuing to meet regularly to work towards our vision of creating that safe and nurturing environment. We're going to be including staff and student voices and hopefully looping in our family voices as well, as we've spoken to. We're going to continue to build and refine system of supports while focusing on those roots of behavior. We're going to be engaging our community and our families, providing more professional learning opportunities, and continuing to use data to support all of our decisions as a committee. Thank you very much. That takes us to the end of the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
One, maybe two. Sounds more reactionary. What are we doing to put that information out as the students come into the school at a younger age and say, well, these are things that's in place in case this happens? And maybe you might have a student that will feel these certain ways and be able to come to you and say, hey, I don't like this kid and my anger issues is going to make me do something crazy to this kid.
So the tier 3 process that I was talking through is absolutely reactionary, because if we've gotten up to tier 3, that means we've been through tier 1 and tier 2. So the tier 1 processes, that PBIS model, is a more preventative piece of it. And also all of our staff we have a continuum that we ask everyone to follow through. If I'm not answering your question, please clarify.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
how are we getting this out?
Absolutely. So we have our set processes in place. And then when a student comes in who might have, I'll just give you like an example. If we have a student who comes in who we know might have more intensive needs, that team is meeting right away to do some problem solving and preventative steps that might need to be put in place, and then we might meet afterwards. But for our students where, just in general, we might not know of their needs, that's where our awesome tier 1 supports come in terms of those reset spaces, the coaches who are trained to work with students who might be dysregulated, all the work in those areas kind of supports.
And I think that was the idea with some of the mental health supports with the social work, not only for special ed students, those I already identified, but working with general education students and trying to do preventative work through that. So I don't know if we've highlighted that as much on here, but that certainly was, the focus of bringing on the general ed social workers. But I think we're even refining sort of the work that they're doing and how we might need to, even tighten up that plan. And I think Amy wanted to say something. I don't know if you did or.
Well, the only thing I was going to add is there's components in each level, elementary, middle school, and high school. Well, high school's working on it, that are part of social emotional curriculum. So in elementary, they learn in lessons called getting along together. And then through the processes you just heard, they have, for lack of a better word, outlets or other ways that they're learning to, we're not all great at like handling problems, right? Even with adults. So to be able to teach children those functional skills is critical. And the middle school includes second step and those sort of bottom layers to be able to help students have the supports they need, along with the social workers well side.
And are these programs being presented to the parents when these children decide to come into the district, through our preschool, kindergarten, and
I think that's an area of growth, for sure.
To let the parents know that this actually exists, because they might see this in our kid long before we see it, and say, well, my son or my daughter has, might want to see if I can, get ahead of it before it has to go to a tier 2, tier 3.
Teachers have done an incredible job with the social emotional learning. They start every day with a morning meeting as a connection activity. We talk every day about emotions and our management of emotions, our relationship skills. We use restorative practices for when we have students might not be getting along with each other. We circle up and talk about it. So we really have that whole child holistic approach. And to answer your question about do parents know, every year we send out the PBIS matrix, which is our list of our code of conduct for the elementary school, our consequence schedule, who might they reach out to should they need support with social work support. We really try to promote our PBIS program with our school-wide celebrations, inviting parents in to see the dance party or students receive awards, and not putting such a stigma to the mental health issues.
In our staffing, we do have point people in each building, so it will very frequently happen where someone comes into the building upon enrollment and they're like, hey, I know my student struggles in these areas, and that automatically engages some of our preventative processes and our staff supports. So, yeah.
I applaud you guys for your, it's like Mr. Kinder said, the educators is not I applaud you educators.
Chair, yes. 12 students are engaged in Tier 3. What's the breakdown as far as schools, or elementary, middle school, high school?
So there are many more students engaged in Tier 3 supports. Wraparound is the tippy top of the tier. Okay, yeah, yes. That's okay. So just to clarify, there's probably Tier 3 supports is closer to 30 to 40 students, in the district, but our wraparound, most of those students are at the elementary level. So the breakdown of that, I think we had of the 12, 10 were at the elementary level. And that's where we would expect, just because our youngest students have had the least amount of intervention coming in, and also have the most skills to learn with regulating. So we often have kids who come in with very minimal intervention and who have very high behavior support needs. So 10 at the elementary, 2 at the middle, and we did not have any high school students engaged in wraparound this past year.
That's what I was wondering, just like, do we got 10 kids at the high school? I'm sorry, what's that?
No, 10 at the elementary, 2 at the
Taught them
middle.
all by then.
That's about exactly where I would expect it to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Questions?
To the chair?
Yes.
I have a couple questions. The process that you guys use that you said was praised by the county, is that written somewhere where we can take a look at it? Because I think some of us, I know I am, like still trying to wrap my head around the whole PBIS thing. It's not something I had when I was in school. And sometimes it's confusing to hear you talk about it. And if you have like a visual printout of like, or what you were talking about, the PBIS matrix, if you could send that to me.
Absolutely.
So I can see it.
We actually have both on the Student Services website, a link to Wayne County RESA that has their PBIS structure, and it has the different tiers and the different interventions that are common within those tiers, including on the tier 3, an example of the wraparound process, according to what the county, would say is a model. And the reason that we have had the kudos from the county is because I say, Carol, can you come to our meetings? And I'm usually at them too if I can be. We really have encouraged her as the behavior consultant for the county, or sometimes also can recruit the consultant that helps in Western Region for the ASD students. So depending on what, where the need seems to be, sometimes they both come. And they really do have a nice lens because they come at it as a neutral party. They're very kind to our staff as they go, and our parents as they go through it. It really isn't like a, what are you doing? It's really supposed to be very supportive, very collaborative process. And it really has led to very great success with some of these students. Like you said, about half of the students are showing a real improvement with that process. So we have found it to be incredibly valuable, and I think that they have really liked being invited out so that they can assist us, because that's their role. So we can send a direct link if you'd like. Chris, do you want me to, or I could just send it to you guys if you want.
Yes.
Be happy to talk further about it in another meeting too.
Yes.
I'm sure it would be helpful. My next question for you guys is, the statistics that you provided us are for office disciplinary reports. Was there anything that you collected in regards to the classroom or reset room as far as behavior and repeat behaviors?
We do monthly reports, like part of our PBIS grant for the county, we do submit monthly reports to the county with that information. For the purpose of this presentation, we just want to really highlight the increase in safety and physical safety for our students over the past few years. But we do regularly go through that. It's in our MyStar system. We have to report out locations, infractions, time of day, by classroom. We keep track of classroom managed behaviors in my school, just to see where some minor disturbance behaviors are happening. And that data will influence some of our PD for next year. We think about how teachers in the classroom can be more preventative in their behavior with students. And then we report out monthly to the staff with the PBIS reports, as well as to the county. So we do keep track of it.
We're working on refining our data collection systems in general, specifically because some of the data is pretty hard to interpret when you get to the classroom level, because for example, you might have like one student with high support needs where there's like 60 reports for one student, and that's really skewing that school's data. So that's kind of hard, like aggregated data to look at in that way, but we are trying to figure out a way that we can break that down in a better way.
And then to follow up with that, are the statistics broken down at all by demographics? Are these gen ed students mixed with special ed students? They're not separated out?
This data is everybody.
Okay, so is it ever broken down?
We do
You guys
break it
look
down
at
by
it?
ethnicity. We look at risk ratio Rachel said, getting behavior data is challenging in the sense that if I was a classroom teacher and I have really strong behavior strengths and I can run my classroom really well and I have a newer or not a teacher who's not as proficient at that, there might be some discrepancies in how reporting of behaviors. But we look at it for training purposes. We look at it to make sure that we're not suspending kids unnecessarily, to make sure that we're being equitable in our services. It's really a wide lens the way we look at the data. And just we gave you data, just a sampling of just showing you that the increased safety is really what this can be focused on.
I kind of just want to follow up because I think we see a lot of our really young students who have a lot of need with behavior primarily, and then it can be both, you want to give them a chance before creating a label, but it does at some point become a child-find consideration as to whether the student might have a disability. The rates of autism are pretty much exploding, and they have been for many years. I think it's 1 in 36 right now, according to CDC. So when you think about the impact that has, like almost every classroom is going to have one. And when I look at each of our classrooms, we often have more than one student who has even just autism, let alone some of the other factors that might go into some other disabilities, like other health impairments due to ADHD, etc. So we really it's a balance. Many of our students with behaviors are students with disabilities, but we also know that's why some of them have that label. So, I don't know if that helped. But.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Last question. This is probably for you, Lisa. Have you noticed any trends since starting the new pre-K program? It's been about a year since we approved it, in regards to the behavior of the kids as they, because you were talking about the younger students.
Yes, yeah. We're getting students earlier. I think one of the things we probably need to improve next year is the coaching that goes in earlier into our GSRP. They were kind of new to us. We have expanded the programming. I even talked to Katrina Maxim is our ASD coach, assigned by the county, but really on demand for us. She does help quite a bit with our early childhood special education program, but she really could and needs to probably help more with some of the GSRP programs. So I think we need to make that more evident to our staff that they can and should pull her in for support if they think there's a student with ASD, and often pulling in our other coaches earlier too. But I think that's the advantage, is the whole opportunity for GSRP is to really learn in that setting and learn before they get to kindergarten, when we know that the standards are there and we have some more need for the learning. This is learning how to do school primarily, I think, in GSRP. And, we can always refine that.
Our PBIS data is K-12. So I think we'll have a better reflection of that data next year as our students are moving into kindergarten. We won't have a reflection of that data yet.
RESA is also expanding early childhood PBIS. We haven't joined them yet as a district, but I know that I've participated in conversations discussing ways that we might, if we want to bring PBIS to the pre-K setting. There's a lot of support to sound good for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple. Let's talk about suspension. Can you give me a procedure as to what goes on before we suspend it, and what do we do? Send them home, or what do we do with that?
So one of the considerations as an administrator is that there are 7 different factors that one has to consider as part of a suspension. And I'm probably not going to remember all of them, but it's in my drive, actually in one of our resource documents for the behavior committee. So you have to kind of think about, is it a student who's young? Is it a student with a disability? Is it maybe some of those, Amy, you probably would think of some, and James as well. There are a few of those things that you have to just think about. Because, some of our students, it's not a benefit, it's almost a reward, like they want to go home, so we have to be careful about those things. We also should be trying things like restorative conversations, both within the classroom and with extra supports that are helping in the building. So those things should be considered prior to a suspension.
Are they?
I think so. I think quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a real, a strong belief of students being out of school is detrimental to their education, and so we really work hard to, at the elementary level, we do restorative practices, we do consequence, like repair, where, if you made a mess, you clean it up. If you might sit in for recess, you might, we've had students write letters of apology. We have all kinds of different opportunities to avoid what we call alternative suspension. And we have to, and along with the 7 factors, consider alternative suspension so that our students stay in school. So we're very mindful, and I know the administrators, they're very thoughtful about, do I really want to send this?
It is dependent on the infraction.
Yes.
So like everything kind of has to be taken in context of what the infraction was, what the context was, and also you do have to consider whether the student has a disability, if the disability is related to the infraction. All of those things have to be considered.
Are the parents aware of the 7 things?
Good question.
So I don't necessarily, I'm not somebody who suspends students. I do sometimes get involved in conversations if it's a student with the IEP. I would imagine and hope that the principals are really, kind of talking about those things, whether our parents could identify the 7 factors. I don't know that is true. I don't know that they do.
Could you find out for me, please?
I'm sorry, to the chair says I have a child in the district, right? So they do send those things out. And they have some things at the beginning of the year, maybe. Not a lot of people read them, but we do get that in, an email from her.
Okay, well, if they don't read it, how come they're not, advised?
That's extremely open.
I know, but this, I can't get with 118 days suspended out of school for 2023-24. I just want to know if they're aware. Like you say, if they don't read,
But then
they got,
excuse me,
then they need to do something else. So what else can we as a district do to make the parents aware of what's going on?
I think our strategic planning meeting tomorrow is a great place to bring that up. Because to be honest, I think a lot of the things that came about in the survey were how we're communicating with our community and things just like that, I think it's hard for any one committee to say, we're gonna blast something out there. I think it really is like a whole systematic approach.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not saying
that's a
that
great
you
question.
three or your committee need to do it. I'm just saying, who's making this responsible to our parents?
So, I wanted to say, you had parent involvement, parent engagement several times throughout this slide. So, even though that may be the hardest thing that we are going to have to, figure out how to do, I like the fact that you realize that, and you are working diligently to get that, more of that. Because I agree with Shirley, I think it is mostly the parents, not to say that I'm taking anything away from all the work that you all have been doing and trying to engage, then it's really up to us, to figure out what is going on in the schools with our kids, and try to make that transition better. I speak to a lot of parents and I'm like, well, home should, whatever you're doing at home should match what we're doing at school. I have an autistic nephew and I talk about that a lot. Whatever it needs to match, everything needs to be the same so there won't be many instances, and there's going to be some, nobody's perfect, but so we can slow down the instances and make these children comfortable enough to go to school. You know what I mean? Because that's very hard. And I was looking at those numbers too, Shirley. But do we have to take into consideration what has been going on?
Yeah,
know.
and those numbers are
They're high. Yeah.
And one thing to think about too is if you have like, for example, a fight, and then there are 2 kids involved who each get a 5-day, that's just like 10 days automatically added to that number. So it's like, it's a cumulative effect of that is it's like, it looks like a shockingly high number, but it could be from some of that at our cases like that.
And I'll be honest, we've had some conversations when we've had some wraparound meetings or just some discussions with some of the admin about could this be a short-term suspension? Sometimes I think it was accidentally getting sent out on a crisis, and then because they were sent out, like you have to have your child seen because they hurt someone else, we did wonder, gosh, did all of those need to be put out on a crisis? Because then if the parent had a barrier actually finding some support or finding someone to say they could come back, then we really had somebody out much longer than they needed to be. So we've been having some really great conversations with admin and teams in the buildings about how we best support students, and we really don't want kids to miss instructional time. So that is crucial, you know, whether the kid has a disability or not, but when they do have a disability, it becomes even more important because we have to have a manifestation determination review meeting every time they're out, and if there's a pattern of behaviors, that's like just a legal requirement that we have that is good for us to have to go through because it makes us really thoughtful about not putting students out on suspensions without, you know, really that being appropriate, especially if it's part of their disability.
Okay, I have one other thing. At the elementary data, when it says continued conversations regarding alternatives to suspension, equity, restorative conversations, trauma, and who are we having these conversations with?
This was staff survey data, so there were staff members who would like more information on what alternative suspensions are. There are some mindsets of wanting more pre-suspensions at the elementary level, and so we need to have more conversations about restorative practices and the school to prison pipeline, and all the work that we did with the equity work over the years, so that we all understand the importance of community in the school.
And we actually did a presentation with the peer staff that I think was pretty well received. Actually, Elizabeth DePerin, Rachel, and myself did a presentation on the tiered level of supports, and it really did talk about both like the reason behind the restorative conversations and alternative to suspensions, as well as the implications when it's a student with a disability. And if you want to, I can share that PowerPoint with you because it was pretty well received, and it's something we can certainly replicate at the elementary level as well.
And are the parents being informed of these conversations? I mean, because, you know, sometimes it's hard for parents to really admit where their child is, so.
I think that when we get to the tier 3 wraparound, yes. I think it's the trying to have some of those conversations happen before they get
I will
there.
say what I've seen is when we're having, you know, repeated instances where there are patterns of disciplinary referrals, then teams are doing a really excellent job of pulling families in. So like often if there's suspension, there will be re-entry meetings prior to coming in where the family will come in and everyone's talking about how we can prevent that behavior. So the student's there, or the family is there. But to that point, I think we can continue to refine what that looks like before we get to that point.
And that's more, I think, where the building process, the tier 1, tier 2, and I'm not pointing at Holly, like I think she could solve this any more than anyone else can, but I think that's where our district is wanting more community representation. That has to be real intentional and probably needs to be a highlight or priority at the buildings.
I just feel that maybe if we get the parents, make them aware of certain things, it might help.
I don't disagree.
I mean, have we tried that? That's all I'm saying.
To the chair.
Yes.
Quick question Because I'm assuming they don't count if they're suspended and they're away from school.
So I can speak to that. For the overwhelming majority, no, because the state has a 10-day counting.
Okay.
So it would be extremely rare. It would have to be, like Rachel was mentioning, it would have to be something so egregious that it would be outside that window, and even still, there's another coding in which we can signify based on that too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let me make sure I remember my homework. As I told you, I promised a couple of things and I don't want to forget. So I think I said I would share the tiered, the PowerPoint we did, which was the tiered supports, that I would share the 7 factors. I can share the considerations when it's a student with a disability, but I think it's actually linked in that PowerPoint. Did you have anything else you would like to, and the link to the PBIS for the county, which is also on our drop down. You know, if you ever go to our website, student services link, I have all kinds of things. Oh, and the high school data. That I'm gonna.
And the high school
data.
update.
Can I have these?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And also on our SR internet page, there under the elementary part, there are the office managed reports, classroom managed surveys where you can go in and look at the questions that we ask teachers to fill out. There are the PBIS expectations for the elementary at each tier, and I think the request for assistance, which is our process to identify students both academically and behaviorally that might need assistance. So those are there on our website as well.
Maybe just jotting down that pathway.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is adopt rules and regulations of MHSAA for the 2024-2025 school year.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Athletic Director Mr. Reeves to field any questions that the Board of Education may have for him this evening pertaining to the proposed rules and regulation changes for the Michigan High School Athletic Association for the upcoming school year. Mr. Reeves.
Thank you.
Yes, it's just adopting the rules of the MHSAA. It's the governing body of our high school athletics across Michigan, one of the best in the country, and plan to stay with it. There are generally every year they have modifications to rules that the coaches go through meetings to see what they are and make sure that they follow them. I enforce them, as well as we have knowledgeable coaches that use those rules to conduct their sports. So we do plan to continue working with the MHSAA in good standing.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Winston.
Hey, Lauren, is there anything in here that's you looked at that's kind of like, that's different, or is it kind of like status quo as far as what has been changed, if anything?
There are things that they bring to our attention every year. The thing about, there's been an issue about a shot clock in basketball that hasn't gone through, but all of them, nothing out of the ordinary that's really controversial has came about. They're pretty much rules that conduct safety and keep fair play going within the state. Nothing that's came to my attention that I was really against. It's been pretty solid as it's gone the last few years. Thank you.
Anyone else? There's a resolution. I was going to ask you about this, just to see if anything had changed or if it's the same. But you said it was okay.
Yeah, everything is good. Nothing major this year. Nothing of high circumstance that's going to change how we operate.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Chair.
Yes.
I'll adopt the following resolution.
Thank you.
Any nays? 6 ayes, no nays. Resolution adopted.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consider amendment to general appropriations for the 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Linda Earl to talk with us about this agenda item.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hope everyone is well. I'll be presenting my final 2024 budget presentation and my final proposed this evening. So I made a commitment to Jason when I left that I would help you get through the end of the school year, because this is not an easy task and there's a lot of moving parts, and it's been a challenging year. So we'll just dive right in, and we'll go through the whole presentation, which includes the final 2024. We'll talk a little bit about the L4029, which is the establishment of your millage rates, and then we'll jump into the presentation of your FY25. So at the mid-year amendment, we discussed that your final revenues would be estimated at $57,093,526. That estimation has grown by 678,000-ish to an estimated ending revenue of $57,772,002. There's a lot of reasons, things fluctuate, even though it's we gave the amendment so close, not too long ago. One of the things that we saw was there was a large payout from the insurance company for the damage that happened over at Pierce. And while that's actually offset by an expense, we still have to recognize that as a revenue. We also saw some increases of about $500,000 and $1 million, $524,000 to be exact, from state categorical funds. Things that when we did the amendment, we still didn't have final information on. They've just, as they've released these categorical funds, they've come late, and so that's why you're seeing that increase there. Federal revenue and county and other revenue, they're just minor increases, which are really quite negligible. So as far as your expenditures are concerned, at the mid-year amendment, we discussed that we estimated your ending expenditures at $59,939,142. That has grown to $60,637,419, and pretty much offsets what your growth in revenue was. They just about cancel each other out, which is a good thing, so it makes you just about even. So if we go here to, we look at the where the increases were, we saw higher than expected substitute teacher and aide costs, and then we also saw operations and maintenance. Heating and electricity were off the charts this year. They were much higher than anybody expected. And considering it was a really mild winter, that would be an area that I would watch for next year especially. You can't predict, they try to predict the weather, but there's only so much that you can do. And hopefully those costs will remain somewhat consistent this year for next year. So when everything is said and done for your final budget 23-24, you'll see that there's only a change of $19,801 of an increase from the mid-year amendment. So when everything is said and done, you're looking at eating into your fund balance by $2,845,417, with your audited starting fund balance of $8,719,027. That will give you an ending fund balance, estimated ending fund balance of $5,873,610. So your percentage of expenditures, your fund balance is a percentage of your expenditures, and you'll be at 9.69%. So at mid-year we said 9.83, so 9.83 to 9.69. Again, that change is quite negligible. Are there any questions? Okay.
Madam President, there's a resolution is attached for consideration.
If you'd like, I can go on to the cafeteria budget too, before she, okay?
Yeah, we can do
So your cafeteria budget is in very good shape. In fact, it's in too good of shape. I know that seems kind of like an oxymoron saying that, but the state mandates that you should not make a profit from your food service. And they also like to see districts having a fund balance of no more than 3 months of operating costs, and you definitely exceed that. This will be the 3rd year in a row that we've exceeded that window of fund balance. So we're estimating your ending revenues at $1,777,037. Total expenditures at $1,730,143 for an excess of $46,834. Even with the $20,000 that we have that flows out to the general fund to cover some of those costs, that still leaves you with excess of $26,834. So your audited beginning fund balance was $546,524. And so at the end, it's 33.14% is where you're going to be with your fund balance. So I've incorporated some expenses into the 25 budget that will hopefully bring those costs down dramatically and get you in a place where you need to be for that budget. Are there any questions? So in case you're wondering, one of the reasons why your fund balance continues to grow is because they keep expanding the free food programs. We've been with CEP, before, when I came here in 2020, that was, I believe, was supposed to be your first year doing CEP, which is Community Eligible Provision, where all kids eat for free. But because that was at the height of COVID, you were getting a lot of extra money to help supplement that as well. And that went on for a couple of years. And then this past year, they implemented even more expansion of free food for the kids. So that's why your fund balance continues to grow. So you probably just need to do a deep dive and to look at your kitchen areas. There are some restrictions on what you can spend that money on, but I have to think that there are some uses for that money that'll be responsible uses and put you in a good shape going forward. Any questions? in the millage?
Well, why don't we do the item 14, the resolution? That's 11.
Yeah, there is a resolution for agenda item number 11 that Linda just took us through before we transition.
I have a board member ready to adopt. Chair. Yes. The adoption of positive resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early. And supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor? Any nays? 6 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted.
So as you know, at this time of year, it's time to communicate with the township and the county with your millage rate requests. So these rates came in conjunction and coordination with the folks at PFM who work with you quite often on your financial advising. I'm not sure what else I can add to that, except that this is perfectly in line with what you've done in years past and has had some expert eyes on it, so we feel confident that these millage rates will get you what you need.
So, Madam President, this is agenda item number 13 at the moment, but
What about 12?
it's really essential for 12 as well. So I don't know if you want to continue to move forward with 13, or if you want to hold until Linda talks us through 12 and then just remain in the order as written.
Shall I continue?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll jump back into...
Real quick, if we
Oh,
may.
sure.
Are there any questions from the board about the tax rates that Linda just shared? That's also in your packet that you have. It's just the order in which it came out in the packet.
Yeah, it's just a mix-up on the agenda.
Yeah, Chris had sent it.
My slides are...
Yeah, but I have a question to share. Linda, do we have a copy of this presentation that we can follow for the board? For next year's budget?
Sure.
I mean, we don't have it here. We've always had it at our
Oh.
table.
Where are they? What do we do with them?
We do have copies.
We have not seen anything as a board.
I apologize, I made copies when I got here. I guess they...
Yeah, for number 12, we've seen nothing.
Well, he's
Sorry.
doing that. So number 13 needs to be changed then, because it says Mickey is doing the millage rate. So we need to change that when we write up the minutes to Linda doing the millage.
She just
transitioned into it.
Sorry, you know, there's, you know, because you know I'm working a whole nother job, so, you know, we've had to try to piece all this stuff together by emails and text messages, and so I was kind of told I was doing this when I got here today, so.
It's all right. She is correct, though, that PFM reviewed it. We reviewed it with them to make sure there was no outstanding questions on it. Any concerns? And it's, you know, we've got our 2 bonds on there thinking this is, you know, just standard format and rates.
No, I've got one, thank you.
Yeah, these
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions before I move on to FY25?
Okay.
So FY25, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Everybody, get the rates for the tax. Yes? Yes? Okay, all right. Go ahead. Make sure.
So the FY25 budget includes the following assumptions. So all of the COVID money is gone now. And that was probably the largest influx of, I don't know if you want to say free money that school districts will see. Previously was the ARA funds that were back in the early, like 2007-ish, right around that time period. And you'll likely not see a big chunk of money like that again. That in combination with the non-renewal of some categoricals like 31O, there's no guarantee that the FAFSA grant or the 27L employee compensation grant will be renewed. We know ESSER won't be, 31O won't be, and as a result, that's $2.59 million in revenue that are going to be lost this coming year. 31A at risk is expected to increase by 2.5%, and that has been incorporated into this budget. You've seen numerous retirees, 13 to be exact, that are not being replaced for a reduction in salaries and benefits. All recognized title funds are 85% of the FY24 awards. That's best practices is what they ask us to do, but they have already published what our estimations are for FY25, so those have been reflected in this budget. But there's also a possibility with the title funds that you'll see some carryover, and there might be some adjustments depending on what kind of changes happen with the state's budget. Student per pupil foundation was increased to 9,848. This is an increase of 240 per pupil, and this is following some conservative guidance from a lot of different entities. MSBO is one, MASB is another. There's a lot of groups out there that support that increase for the per pupil foundation. GSRP, which is your Great Start Readiness Program, the per pupil for that is also expected to see an increase to $12,380 per pupil, and that is also recognized in this budget. The 22L transportation grant, which was new this year, that is expected to be renewed, and we did include that in the revenues for this budget. Special education is also continued to be funded at 100%, which was a nice increase. And there's expected, one of the downsides this year is you are expected to see about a $500,000 adjustment, excuse me, in October due to the share time program being over their limit. If you recall, a year ago, you approved the share time program to exceed their limit by 100 students, and that translates to about $500,000. So the plus side of that is each year that you've approved them to be over the cap, that's their starting point for the next year. So starting next year, this will be the last year you take, that you have to kind of bear that burden. FY26 is where you'll really start seeing that whole program return on that investment. So for the FY25 school year, we're looking at proposed revenues of $57,335,761. So despite all of those reductions, you're still expected to only have a net reduction of $436,241. So that's the increase in your student per pupil foundation and the other increases that we spoke about. The general fund projected revenues of $57,335,761 if approved. Again, are only $400,241 less than the final budget that you approved this evening. In terms of expenditures, Jason and his team have done an incredible job at finding areas where we can find reductions. Your net expenditures for FY25 are $58,506,247, and that is a reduction of $2,131,172. Again, that's a lot of your ESSER expenses are going. The fact that you didn't renew the retirees, those salaries, benefits, and retirement, all of that adds up. So we also have to keep in mind, if you're wondering why we keep digging into fund balance, one of the other things to consider is that FY24 and FY25, so you had year 2 and this coming year is your 3rd year of one of the most aggressive collective bargaining agreements across all of your groups that you've had in over a decade. So you provided some pretty incredible increases to your teachers, your clerical group, and to your administrators. And you know, that bodes to keeping those people in place, and it builds, it helps to build that staffing. So when everything is said and done, with total revenues at $57,335,761, total expenditures at $58,506,247. You're looking to eat into your fund balance by $1,170,486. So with an influx of $20,000 from the cafeteria, your net changes in fund balance are $1,150,486. So with a projected ending fund balance in FY24 of $5,873,610, you're looking at an ending fund balance of $4,723,124. That puts you at 8.07% of your expenditures is your fund balance. That's just a summary. As far as your cafeteria is concerned, your total revenue is projected at $1,824,170. Total expenditures at $1,955,188. And you'll notice under capital outlay, I've listed that at $360,000. That seems like a lot of money, and it probably is, but I think, again, as I indicated earlier, you have some good communication with your food service folks and with your buildings, with Michelle Kearns, to see how you can responsibly spend that money. I think you'll be in good shape. I would expect that the Michigan Department of Education will be in contact with you about the excessive fund balance at the end of FY24. So you'll need to probably have those conversations so that you can put a plan in place and have that ready for them when they reach out to us. So with a beginning fund balance of $573,418 and a deficit eating into the fund balance of $151,018, you're looking at an ending fund balance for your cafeteria of $422,400. So that'll bring you from 33.14% down to 21.6%, which is still very healthy. So as far as I am to understand, you'll continue with the CEP program again this year, and all of the guidance says that they're going to continue with the free food for all. So it's going to be a real balancing act. One of the things that is that perhaps you lower the price of your meals for the kids that are for example, that are buying a la carte items. That'll help to reduce those extra revenues. And that's all I have. Any questions?
To the chair?
Yes.
I have one question, well, two, a question and a statement. You know, when you talked about the Great Start program, you know, and you said about $12,380 per pupil, I thought we paid a certain percentage back to RESA or something when we first established the program. Will we get this whole $12,000, or are there expenses that the district has to pay now as we move forward?
You do have to pay for RESA's consulting.
Yes,
Right, it was a
4%.
certain-
So
it was how much?
4%. So
right.
they will get 4% off the top.
So we won't get the whole 12,000 per student?
Correct.
Okay, I thought that was, and my second question is, I look at this and I know they've been working very hard, but we're data driven, and I look back at 2022, 2023, our fund equity was 15.11%. And in 3 years' time, we're going to be going down to 8.7%. We have on our books a district policy that this board years ago put in a protection net that we would never drop below 12%. So as a board, I think we're going to have some deep discussions. I think you need to cut more. $1.1 million is a lot to draw down again. I think we really have to go over with a fine-tooth comb. And then if we continue to operate like this, then we have to have that discussion of changing policy. What are we comfortable with? What is the going recommendation? Because we've way surpassed it. That is a big dip from 15 to 8%.
And there are some tangible reasons why you've seen that reduction. For
Right.
example, the space that we're in right now was funded with general funds. And then you had all the COVID money that, you know, I just want to assure you that this district is not alone. There's a lot of districts out there that
For sure.
are seeing cuts in staffing and services in order to accommodate the removal of ESSER, ESSER funds having been
And we were
used up.
cautioned, you were very clear with all the COVID money that a lot of it was one time and would disappear. And we'd have to come up with alternate ways of funding. But even when we were audited, we were cautioned we cannot continue the drawdown path we are. We are not being physically responsible, and it's alarming to see bigger districts than us are struggling with financial things all around us. Things are happening. Superintendents are getting, pushed out. Boards are being called to be responsible, and that is our job, to oversee this budget. And the sad part is, we'll discuss it today. 2 weeks, we'll discuss it again. If we have any questions, we're forced to vote on it. Whether we agree, if there's 4 of us that do, to keep drawing down, we're obligated legally that we have to approve this budget. So as the treasurer, I am just respectfully and humbly asking you guys to take another look and dig deeper. It's not easy to make cuts, but then we also know in the back burner, we're going to be going into negotiations again. And this time it won't be so pleasant, because the money is not there. So there's a lot of things we need to look at. And I don't think I think we're still too fat. That's the only way I can describe it. We have to trim it down further, or we're doing a disservice to our district. And that's just my piece, from the financial piece of it, and knowing what the the finance department does and the team and how hard they work, but we have to work and do hard as a board and make those tough decisions.
And I don't disagree with anything that you said, and the conversations that I've had with Jason fall right in line with what you said. But what I want to caution you with is that the state of Michigan forces school districts to play a guessing game this time of year. They don't have their budgets approved yet. There's so much talk right now, things that they're trying to do. And I'm sure Jason has spoken with you about the very large initiative. Pretty much every superintendent in the state of Michigan descended on Lansing several weeks ago to discuss the 147 seat, the retirement money. So the healthcare, if you recall, the healthcare under the MIPSERS program, the state retirement program, is fully funded now. So all of the money that school districts and employees have been chucking into that for, what, a decade or more, that is fully funded now. And there was talk about, oh, okay, so now we don't have to do that, and so let's push that money somewhere else. And every district in the state of Michigan is, and even not just the school districts, but entities like the MEA and MSBO and MASB, they've all come together to lobby the people in Lansing to say, listen, that money is school money, it needs to stay in schools, and hey, why don't you lower the rate of retirement that school districts are paying now? We're paying upwards of 30% of people's salaries right now, on average, for their retirement. That is a very large chunk of money. So if they could bring that down, I mean, there's all kinds of numbers going around, but they're talking anywhere from a 5 to a 7% decrease in that. If you see that, which everybody is hoping, every district in the state of Michigan is hoping for that, then that's a start. That is a really good start. There's also other funding out there that, you know, they're talking about expanding on the transportation piece. So this is just your starting point. Should you be concerned? Yes, you should be concerned. And Jason and the other leadership in the district is concerned. Everybody is concerned. I'm concerned. But keep in mind that this is just a starting point, and Jason and I have had very frank conversations that if the things that have been talked about in Lansing and through all of these different channels don't come through, he's going to have to. Because then you're going to get put under watch, and nobody wants to see that happen. So we understand, and I promise you that I went through this budget with a fine-tooth comb, and I squeaked as much out of it as I could. Without knowing all of these other tangible items that you really need to know to have a proper budget, that was really the best that we could get. So it's a good starting point. But you're going to have your count day in October. By the beginning of December, all of that stuff is finalized, so that by the so either by December or by January, your state aid is solid for the year. In December, maybe even before that, depending on if this retirement thing comes through, you should probably see a modification to this budget. So fingers crossed that retirement comes through. And fingers crossed that some of these categoricals come through too. And the only problem with the categoricals is that they usually have some very, finite uses. So, but you have every right to be concerned.
It's really rough. I think it bothers me more because I've watched us go up and down for over 20 years. And I see that, and I've been in the board meetings, and it's very alarming, and we do have so much against us that we don't have it control. Getting the budget, we have to have ours ahead of time. We're pushed into different things, but I would like to see this district, and we talk about there's only certain ways we can generate revenue ourselves. You know, this board approved extending our borders to 5th grade for kids, all right? I hope we see some data that that's gonna make a difference, but it's gonna be like putting pennies in a pot, you know, for that. I would like to see the discussion start with my board. What are we gonna do with the Innovation Center, and how are we gonna make it work? Not only for our kids, but surrounding districts. The conversation needs to start now. You know, that is a long process, and maybe it has, but I have not heard it. But I've had kids that participated in William Ford, and we stuff. I would like to see us work that program and start on whatever process it is to bring that in to make some money through that would help offset some of the unknowns. But
Well, one of the other things that you have to keep in mind too is that not only, I mean, the COVID money was great, but that in conjunction with not having kids inside the classrooms for a year and a half really kind of caused that false increase in your fund balance. Because all of those extenuating costs didn't exist for that small period of time. And it caused your fund balance to inflate unnaturally. So, like I said, you and other districts are kind of in a place where, you know, you have to have some good conversations.
yeah,
And I
don't
think
wanna
that,
have us have, you know, it's
No,
bad enough seeing
well, let's
other
hope not.
districts.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I don't want to see us on the news. I think
there
we
should be some good things coming,
proactive.
you know, fingers crossed, good things coming out of Lansing.
But we need to talk and be transparent, and we all have to be aware that it's not a walk in the park. This is
Yep.
serious.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, folks.
Claire, I have a question, I think it's more for Jason and Linda though. Linda touched on the increase in heating and electricity. Have we, well, I'm sure you probably have, but when we go out for the bond and we have the workers in here like at night and in the summers, is that what's possibly contributing to those costs? And if
No, it's
so,
actually the fuel costs.
so it's the fuel cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not just the use?
No, I mean, you see,
Okay.
you see what you're paying at the gas.
Yeah.
It's equally as bad, you know, with your natural gas and your electricity.
Okay.
And some of it is consumption too, but that's
Yeah.
the lion's share.
Then might we do a follow-up with, I remember Michelle Kearns doing a presentation and we went with somebody different for the fuel. Have we followed up to see if that's been beneficial or not?
Do you want to comment? on when that
Well, I know
starts
that
and
your
uses?
final, you think May?
No, it ended up getting changed to June.
Okay, so it was June. So in June, you finished up with MySec. And so you'll be on 100% with Constellation and Rob Bernardi's organization.
So it hasn't started.
Executive
Yes,
Energy.
yes.
So you should start seeing some savings.
Okay.
At the very
Okay.
least,
That
if
was
there
my
are
question.
increases, they're not going to be as dramatic as what you're seeing under MySec.
Okay.
So the board's action that it took was in advance of when it would actually,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
will start for the upcoming fiscal year based on that time frame that Linda shared.
Okay. That was my
Yeah,
So that has
it
not
got
been
bumped
fully enacted
1-1.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. Thank you.
Which is probably cleaner that way anyway. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, folks.
Okay, Linda.
So before Linda goes, Madam President, if I may.
Oh, we got a resolution.
Well, we don't, because both agenda items 12 and 13 are both discussed. But before Linda departs, we also have agenda item number 14, if I may, Madam President. And that's also the discuss of committing general funds.
Oh, I apologize.
No, you're fine. And so Linda is here for that agenda item.
I see that, okay.
Yes. And so,
Discussing.
Sorry about that, Jason.
oh, you're okay. Yes, and so the Governmental Accounting Standards Board created a policy effective with fiscal years ending after June 30th, 2011 called GASB 54, which stipulates that all governmental entities, including Michigan Public Schools, must classify fund balances in a way that comprise a hierarchy based primarily on the extent to which the government is bound to honor constraints on the specific purposes for which amounts in those funds can be spent. And so I won't read it to the board unless, Madam President, you would like me to do that. But there is the reference to bring us current, but also in bringing us current, it also recognizes the projects that the board earmarked those dollars for several years ago, at which the vast majority of those projects have been completed, while also recommending to the board that we still retain $1 million earmarked specifically for catastrophic building failures. And so before Linda departs, I just wanted to encapsulate that agenda item for discussion. Should the board have any questions for Linda while she's here? I know for some board members it would be new, but for other board members, this is an action that the board took approximately 3 years ago that would just reflect us being current for this agenda item.
To the chair?
Yes.
Tracy, could you explain, for those of us who don't know, what is considered a catastrophic building failure? What would that include?
Like a boiler failure, boiler stops working, needs to be. The water main break that occurred this year at Pierce Middle School that just ruptured in the parking lot. Catastrophic, unexpected, immediate failure that we would need to tend to as quickly as possible to get students back to the school.
Would that include like a building foundation failure as well, or is it more like mechanical maintenance stuff?
It could. Yeah, depending upon the severity, it certainly could, and safety as well. So the other piece too to share with the board is, as you know, we have our insurance as well. So this is above and beyond the insurance. But even in that example, to Amanda's question of what occurred this year with the water main break over at Pierce, we still had to, correct me if I'm off base here, we had to front load the monies and the funds to have that work done instantaneously to reopen school while claim to then ultimately get reimbursed.
Well, and you also have your deductibles too.
And we also.
Right.
So follow-up question, because I'm looking, I agree with all of these except for I'm a little weary about the stormwater thing, because with global warming, we do have a lot more rain than we used to. Do we have insurance for water damage if it's from a storm and not a water main break? Or how would we, if we take this money out of stormwater, we wouldn't have that if there was like a 100-year storm that hit us?
Sure.
Well, actually, I believe that stormwater was, that allocation, that restriction was put in place to actually fund and pay for the stormwater improvements that you have to make on the areas that you are under construction right now. So if you're replacing a field with a parking lot or with a building, you have to make improvements in stormwater runoff areas in order to accommodate all of those changes. I think initially Brian thought, because our fund balance was so high, that we'd be able to pay for that out of general funds. And that's why, and so that when it got to that point, we would be able to pay for that with general funds. We've actually paid for some of it, a small portion of it, last school year. I think it was about $600,000, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yes. And so knowing and talking about this budget and where we were going, it was discussed that there's no way that you can afford to pay for that stormwater, those stormwater improvements out of your general fund. It's going to have to come out of your bond. And it's a bondable expense. And if we had caught that last minute expense, we probably would have turned that around and we would have been $600,000 richer because that, but it just, that's how it ended up. So that's what that piece is about.
Okay, so it's more so not an act of God type
No.
situation, whereas
No,
it would be
it's-
for more development and like
It's
eco
environmental,
regulation
yep,
and stuff.
environmental
Okay.
improvements that you're required to make anytime you're doing construction on a space, so that you have adequate, so that when you're making these improvements to your schools, that you're not hindering the community around you and ending up with flooded areas, because now there's nowhere for that water to go.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Linda.
All right.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consider regional enhancement.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Madam President. At the board meeting on April 22nd, 2024, the board discussed countywide regional enhancement millage renewal. Section 705 of the revised school code of 1976, as amended by MCL 380.705, section 705, provides for the levy of a regional enhancement property tax by an intermediate school district at the rate not to exceed 3 mills for the purpose of enhancing other state and local funding for local school district operating purposes, if approved by a majority of the intermediate school district electors. Proceeds of a millage levy pursuant to Section 05 are paid to each constituent school district by the intermediate school district in an amount calculated on a per pupil basis as provided in Section 705. In an effort to increase revenue for school districts in Wayne County RESA has submitted to the intermediate school district electors the question of a regional enhancement millage proposal of 1.9876 mills for a period of 6 years, 2028 to 2034, inclusive for the state general election to be held on November 5th, 2024. The board is asked to consider a resolution in support of this regional enhancement millage renewal by July 16th, 2024. The Wayne RESA board will vote on the adoption of a resolution certifying the text of the ballot proposal on July 17th, 2024. This text will be certified to all county and local clerks on July 18th, 2024 for the November election. Madam President, the resolution for consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
For the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
It's been moved by Mrs. Rusher. Do I have a support?
Support.
It's supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 0 nays, 6 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, number 16, is tabled. Number 17, consider superintendent evaluation. And I'm gonna run down this one. Mr. Winston is gonna read that. I'm
At the board meeting on May 20th, 2024, the Board of Education evaluated the performance of the superintendent using the Collins and Blaha PC Superintendent Evaluation Tool. The Collins and Blaha PC Evaluation Tool is an evaluation instrument that allows the board to rate the superintendent's progress in 6 or 7 categories, including visionary leadership, policy and governance, instructional leadership, communication and community relations, organizational management, professionalism and ethics, and statutory factors. District student growth is also required as a consideration in the evaluation. The evaluation has been completed. Attached is a resolution for the board's consideration. Do I have a? I want to say it. I can't say it.
You could say it.
Principal's Office, Daniel.
To the chair.
Yes.
Daniel didn't do all of his reading. He didn't read the resolution, so we could go into what we rated. So could you direct him to read the resolution? Thank you.
Would you like me to read the resolution?
Yes, please.
Whereas at the Board of Education meeting on May 20th, 2024, the Board of Education met with Jason Bobrovsky, Superintendent of Schools, to evaluate his progress and identify his strengths and opportunities for improvement as a Superintendent of Schools based on the Collins and Blaha PC Superintendent Tour. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby concurs with and submits for record that the rating of effective in the evaluation of the Superintendent of Schools and that this rating is deemed satisfactory to the Board of Education, and be it further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools shall do all things necessary to progress towards personal advancement in the categories evaluated in the Collins and Blaha PC Superintendent Tool, and be it further resolved that a copy of the Superintendent's evaluation be included in his personnel file immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Winston.
Good job.
Do I have a,
Do I have a board member? That's you.
no, move the resolution.
Oh, okay. Do I have a board member that's willing to move the resolution?
No, you move.
Me? I get to do that too?
Yes.
Oh, I would like to move the following resolution then.
Support.
Switching seats.
It's been moved by Mr. Winston. And who was supporting?
I did.
Cheryl, and it's been
It's the least I could do.
supported by Mrs. Fletcher. Okay, now, let's see. All in favor?
Aye.
6 ayes. Any nays, 0 nays, resolution adopted. Thank you, guys. Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss one season waiver to rent Thurston High School's competitive football field. Mrs. Josh.
All right. The Facilities Committee met on Thursday. We had some good conversation. It was come to the consensus that we should extend the waiver for another year. Same price and all rules and stuff still effective as last year. Nothing has changed, and I got a good report from all the people involved in that and said there were no problems at all last year. So I am bringing the recommendation of the committee to give another 1 year to the Redford Eagles for the football field. If anyone has any questions about what our committee talked about, it was a short meeting, less than a half hour. Questions, concerns?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will get
A resolution to formalize it to consider at our next board meeting, and then it'll be all set.
Item number 19 was withdrawn. So what I'd like to say about that, about the board education evaluation, is this. After deep thought and consideration from the committee, we discussed and we decided that this evaluation would not be feasible for me. So what I'd like the committee to do is talk with other boards to see what is out there to use as a evaluation for the board. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have an evaluation, but we will. But we just want the committee to bring back give us some recommendations.
To the chair. If you don't mind, can I make a suggestion to kind of help the committee if they choose to do so?
Yes.
On how to go about it. MASB is a great one. There might be something that could align with our strategic plan and stuff like that. And also, Chris has it in his power, I'll volunteer Chris, just to send a survey out to the other districts and ask what their boards are using. And that would be a good place for you guys to start. And if they have any questions or anything, I did it the last couple of times out there searching. I'd be more than help answer any of your questions.
Any questions? Okay. Next item on
He's not saying anything. Can't see that far. Is he giving us the
She's gonna say
gesture?
comments from the audience, I was just pointing at the audience.
Oh, I was
But I
looking
still
at poor
have to
Chris's
say
face.
it. I still have to say it. Next item on the agenda, comments from the audience. There are none. Next item on the agenda, plus Delta for improvement. Mrs. Davis.
Madam President, what processes on the board's work?
To the chair?
Yes.
My plus would be the retirement ceremony. It was nice to hear so many people speak, not just Bill Dyer, but to have actual principals this time speak.
Any other? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Davis.
You're fine.
To the chair, I like that I'm facing the audience. In other spaces, my back to the people. I just like being able to see everything. So I know we can't always have our meetings in here, but it's a plus being able to see everything.
Very good.
I'd like to give a plus to. No, he doesn't want to. I'm giving it to him anyway. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Plus to you, sir, for putting me here and able to see it.
Processes of how the board's work in the future?
To the chair?
Yes.
My Delta is, and I know we have it somewhere. For me, I like the PowerPoints ahead of time, and we continuously ask for them. Even when we're out in schools, that a deadline is given to the presenters and people when it's on our agenda, so we get that with our board packet on Thursday. I know, like, we got late forms, but Chris gets them out, but there's 2 PowerPoints we didn't get as a board. And some of us read it over the weekend and formulate and ask questions and stuff, and I think it slows down the process, and I find it really frustrating when we don't have the information. And I don't know if it's in policy or operations, but we have talked about it in the past that they have a timeline to get their PowerPoints into us. So that is my Delta, and I know we've asked for it in schools, we've asked for it from the board table, and there's still, we have a problem getting our PowerPoints ahead of time.